All right, let's call this meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. We're going to start with the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. One nation. Please join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Sunshine law notice. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. This meeting is being held in person through the Zoom meeting platform being broadcast from the Farragut Firehouse, 645 River Road, Farragut, New Jersey. Public participation for this regular council meeting, July 8th, 2024, is available by calling phone number or web conference Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until it's time for questions or comments, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question or comment by phone or through Zoom by the raise hand button and will be called on at the appropriate time. Notice of this meeting was included in the schedule of meetings, which was adopted by resolution number 2024-13 and sent to the Asbury Borough Press and the Two River Times on January 4th, 2024, posted on the Borough website, the Bulletin Board of the Municipal Building, and has remained continuously posted as required in the statute. With adequate notice having been given, the Borough Clerk is directed to include the statement in the minutes of this meeting. Allison, please have a roll call.
Members Cole. Here. DiMaselli. Here. Bowie. Here. Patch. Rivera.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
And the chief clerk.
Okay, thank you. Let me first start by thanking the Farragut Fire Department, First Aid, Auxiliary Fire Police for hosting us tonight. We're very happy to be here. We love the relationship that we have. This community is so lucky to have all of you, and your hard work and dedication does not go unnoticed by anyone. So thank you very much. Before we get to Chief DePonte, I would real quick just like us all to give a standing round of applause. We had the best starting week out for Borough Administrator. I'm so pumped up. Chris York, welcome to the meeting. Chris has really hit the ground running, and we're really excited to have you as part of our community.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Moving along, Fire Chief Matt DePonte, have some remarks.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. If I may, first off, everybody, welcome from the community, welcome to our governing body. Thank you for being here. It's our pleasure to host the governing body here tonight, and look forward to doing this again in the future. Just because I have to, the safety concerns, fire exits are all around us. Our restrooms are out the back door to the left, the normal ones we use for the fair, and in the event we need it. Just to let everyone know, this is an active fire station at the moment, and we're here, so if a call comes in, there might be a few members who are going to come in and they're going to gather their equipment and respond to the call as we normally would. So if that happens, I apologize for the inconvenience, but I'm sure you can understand. Thank you. Mayor, may I have a few minutes for a presentation?
Absolutely.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Just so, again, bring it to our attention to the governing body and to our community town residents, what our mission is here. Our mission is to serve the residents of Fairhaven 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 a year, including right now. We respond to an average of 225 fire calls every year, some years more, some years less, and EMS responds to approximately 450 emergencies every year. And that is all done with 100% volunteer staff. Our coverage includes firefighting services, full fire structural firefighting services, rescue services, and emergency medical services, as well as on our beautiful Napson River, our marine services. We have a boat that we respond to marine emergencies should we be requested. Our members, have currently on our rolls approximately 40 active firefighters on our rolls, and then approximately 125 support services, whether they be EMS, our fire police, which protects our fire members, and we also have social members that help us around the firehouse and conduct our annual major fundraiser, which is coming up that I'm sure all of you know and enjoy. So that we have a full staff and full complement for that. Just so the residents are aware, and so the council is aware, we are partially funded by some taxpayer dollars, and what we do with those taxpayer dollars is on full display in this room tonight, which is a great backdrop for us. I have some equipment out front here, but what you see around the room is fully structural firefighting gear for each of our members who, just so you're aware, for every locker that you see around this room, including the stuff on the floor and including the stuff myself and Chief Crutchman carry with us, those members have completed a minimum of 250 hours of training that's state mandated and NFPA mandated, and they've all completed it and are certified in such. Also, our EMT program, so every EMS member has also completed a minimum of 250 hours training. And we also do monthly drills as required. Every month, third Monday of the month, we are here, we're training, we're actively engaging, we're keeping our skills sharp and ready to go. And that's at a minimum. So there's chances we have 2 drills a month, or we have 3 drills a month sometimes. Keep our skills sharp and ready to go. Going back to some of the equipment that goes for all this structural firefighting gear, coat, pants, helmet, boots, SCBA. Now, what I have presented up here in front is, just so everybody can take a look at and see, is the equipment that goes out on every single call. So when you see the fire truck roll down the road, this is what you're going to get at every single call, no matter what it is. Every firefighter will be dressed fully prepared for any sort of major incident with their pants, coat, boots, SCBA. That's our breathing air. We're going to come to your front door in the event of an emergency with a fire extinguisher, a hook, forcible entry tools should we find something that's locked. Our quad gas meters that dual gas meters that check for carbon monoxide and natural gas. So in the event we carry those, thermal imaging camera, which will work for now, but we're working on something, but that will detect all heat and through walls. That will see through walls when we can't. And then we also have an example of a fan here in case there is some natural gas and some gas in your home. We're going to bring this in, and I apologize in advance. We're going to blow the pictures off your wall, but we're also going to get the natural gas and stuff and seal out of your house. So these are the kind of mandatory on every call that we use. So that's here. Behind me, we have our equipment, 2 Class A pumpers, which respond as such. 1372, our first one out will go. First to every call, so if there's a call, there's a chance you're probably going to see that in front of your house. Secondary backup, 1375, also a Class A pumper that carries a lot of ladder equipment that we might need for ground ladders. And then on the other side there is our air rescue unit, which carries our jaws of life in the event of a serious motor vehicle crash and things of that nature. And also it will refill on site our SCBA cylinders, so our firefighters have no downtime. They're always working. So these are the things that we operate on a day-to-day basis, and they come out every time. So, and for these equipment, I'd be happy to show any and all of you after the meeting's complete. Not looking for anybody to know if they already know, such as our Kane in the audience. So feel free after. We're going to open up. We're going to go through. If you'd like to stick around, please, and we'll show you what all of our equipment is, why it's there, and what we need it for. That covers equipment. Also, you'll see a couple of specialty pieces of equipment purchased through the years on our capital budget, which we can't do without you guys up here. Right in the back corner there is our gear washer and our gear dryer. And this is probably one of the most important pieces in this firehouse for us, because when we go to a structure fire and we're in the thick of it and we're dirty, we come back and all of those carcinogens that are released from that house are now on all of our equipment. So that is a specialty washer that's designed to agitate and bring out all those carcinogens and get them away from not only us, but then get them away from our personal clothes, and ultimately get them away from bringing them home to our families who have didn't sign up for this. So that is one of the most important pieces here, and our members use it regularly. They log in, and they're mandated to watch their gear as to not expose anybody to any of these carcinogens. In the back here also too is our house compressor that was purchased many years ago through meticulous maintenance, has been kept up to snuff and being still in service to this day. That will fill our air tanks as well as filling our truck out there that will do it on site. So those two pieces of equipment are just invaluable to us. And like I said before, to wrap up, we're going to open up the doors to all this equipment for anyone to check out. There's plenty more. I can go on all night. I won't bore everybody, especially the campaign. And welcome, and I hope you have a very productive and safe meeting tonight. So, thank you, Mayor.
So I just wanted to add just a few more comments. Chief, keep me honest here.
Sure.
The impetus of the meeting has really been over the last couple of years with questions around how the borough supports the fire department and with understanding how that differentiate and we discern that from the fundraisers that they do. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, just so everybody's on the same page. Keep me honest.
I'll help you out.
All right, thank you. So what Chief didn't mention is we're one of the few volunteer firefighter companies that's growing, I think, in the county and the state, right? So it's really important to call out as a testament of the family that they built here. I think it's 120 years right this year, which is phenomenal. Now, the agreement with the town of Fairhaven, I believe, goes back to the 50s, 60s maybe. Probably longer than that. And the borough actually leases the garage space. So they call it in-house and out-of-house. And that is how they discern what the firehouse as a volunteer company is responsible for versus what the borough is responsible for. So the best way to think about it is when there's a call, the minute fire, EMS, I'll even say like OEM, right, the minute there's a call, all those volunteers in essence become borough employees. That's the way you want to think about it. So when they hop in that car, they have borough insurance, their cars are insured, they're personally insured, they get here, they're going into borough equipment, they're using borough vehicles, they go respond to the call, they come back, and then they get a certain mileage to go home. So the best way to always discern where the taxpayer dollars going versus fundraisers that they do is they own these buildings, they own these properties, they maintain these lands. Anything that they need to use when they get that call, when that buzzer goes on, that's what we are supporting. So I just wanted to take a minute. Is that fair?
Yeah,
Anything to clarify?
I can just real quickly justify that exact statement is the roof over our head, the membership through our fundraising efforts built this structure to support the growing size of the apparatus through the years, and that can give you that kind of an idea. And also too, wanted to make mention as well that through those fundraising dollars that we do every year, we also kick back into some of our operational equipment that might overrun the budget every year. So we do kick back as fundraising into some much needed equipment that's there, and we have always in the past. We've upgraded some vehicle apparatus on our fundraising dollars. Our fundraising dollars through an agreement that has been in place for a long time. Used to purchase every other ambulance every year. So our fundraising dollars would do that to help offset this cost. And we also, the two command vehicles that myself and Chief Countryman have are always purchased through our fundraising dollars here. So we're wholeheartedly understanding the fact that what our fundraising does goes ultimately towards the mission. In housing the vehicles, purchasing vehicles, and then assisting where we can and need to during that time. So, thanks. Yeah, thank you.
There, I kind of felt very far up. President, Chief. I just want to be clear, thank you, Council, for clarifying. There is a 100-year lease on this building, and the cost of that lease is $1 per year. So I want anyone to meet, if they ask how much to release it for, we lease it based on $1 per year. That was set up for.
Thank you. Okay, so we are moving along workshop session with two. Sure, you can.
First of all, thank you. I think that was really helpful. Just two quick questions. What keeps you awake at night? What's the biggest threat to fair use right now? And where can we be helpful?
The biggest threat to us in town is obviously a fire, a major fire situation. So what you could do to help that out, what you can do to help that out is always make sure that your smoke detectors are functioning. That's tip top number one. And if there's ever a fire, please call 911 urgently, because as we noticed through we responded to our brothers Red Bank over the weekend to a call that 911 was not called urgent. And it ended up as a loss of their property, a loss of one of their pets that didn't, not calling 911 urgently did. And don't feel that your alarm going off, it's a small thing, I can take care of it. Please call us. We have the specialty equipment, thanks to you guys, and we keep up with the latest technology to be able to help you guys mitigate the problem. And that's what we're here for, and we're honored to do it every time we come out. So what keeps us up at night is the people that don't call, and what's out there that we don't know and can't fix.
I'm going to move to a tree appeal from 65 Harvard Road. We carried this from the last meeting, I believe. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Sort of. Okay, Sherry.
Can you hear me?
And, I believe that members of this governing body wanted to hear from Sherry on this. Is that correct?
Can you hear me?
Harvard Road.
Okay,
We
you can.
can share it.
We got you, Sherry.
Okay.
Sherry, can you provide additional detail on your review of this tree and why you made the recommendation you did?
Well, the tree is quite large and it seems to be in good condition, except for some dead limbs that need to be pruned from the tree. And by ordinance, it is 60% of the size of Monmouth County's largest tree of the pin oak. So the ordinance requires council to approve or deny a tree of that size. So I didn't really have the authority to approve the tree unless, you know, it was dead or dying.
Okay, so your opinion is that the tree is in good condition? Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Any members of the council, anybody have questions for Sherry or for the applicants?
Another outstanding item was just to get the note from, not you weren't going to go to Frontier, you were going to go through.
Trevor. We've tried to reach out, we haven't ever heard back.
And the other item was how many trees they would plant with this.
That's from my side. I mean, I may not get a vote here, obviously. My opinion is we can't force people to not cut down trees on their own property when they're worried they're going to fall in their own house. However, I do think since you know, the ordinance has denied their permit, it gives us the ability to potentially negotiate the amount of trees that are replaceable. Is that accurate or no?
When you're here tonight. One conditions attached.
Except for the condition in the ordinance, which claims that
Well,
one tree.
it says a 4-inch caliber tree.
Correct.
Sherry, does that mean one 4-inch caliber tree?
Yeah, that's what the ordinance specifies. You know, from experience, I don't really recommend planting a 4-inch caliber tree. It's the chance of that surviving and establishing is low. It would be better to plant a 2-inch caliber tree and just have them do a greater quantity rather than go up in size. Going up in size to something like that is extremely expensive and most likely won't survive.
Or what you could do is you could grant the the understanding, because they're concerned citizens of Fairhaven, that they would agree to whatever the council recommends. It cannot be a condition of, oh gosh, but it can be an understanding between town, borough, and the residents.
It would certainly make me more comfortable. I don't know if either of you would like to speak and just see if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, just want we spoke about it last week, but once again, we've had two experts say that the tree is dying and dangerous. We've witnessed the branches falling down. It's over wires to our house. You know, we've got our dogs and everyone out there. We're afraid it's gonna fall down. One person saying itself is not allaying that fear. If we have to keep it, you know, we're being forced to keep something that we're afraid of. We're forced to pay for it. So, you know, and it's expensive to prune it. It's not a one-time thing. It'll be an ongoing expense. We have no problem planting trees. We're not doing this because we think it doesn't look good. We want to put something there. We just don't want to smash on our house or our neighbor's house. Our neighbor, if we pull branches out of our neighbor's yard quite a few times as well. There is an existing tree in my neighbor's yard that has the same shade. It's a different type of tree. But no, we liked the tree when we first moved in, but as it started to, you know, litter our yard with branches. And again, it took a long time for us to even come to this decision. And we reached out to Frontier a few years back and we still push back because we don't want to get rid of it. But we've gotten to the point where we don't feel safe.
But you'd be amenable to 2 2-inch trees instead of 1 4-inch.
That's fine.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Wait, hold
That
on.
should also be, if you could add the requirement that they be native oaks to be replanted, rather, you know, we're not looking to see, you know, new green giants installed in the yard.
I
Sure,
don't think,
it's Andrew Sobel again. Did you go to the property?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Oh, yes, I did.
Oh,
it's hard to hear.
yes.
Yeah,
sure.
you're not coming up well on the mic.
Sherry, did you go to the property?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I've been twice.
Could you see that it might be dying, the tree?
I do not believe it's dying. I mean, I myself have very large oak trees in my own yard. It is something that you have to prune every couple years. It's just like any old, you know, antique car or older home. There's work to be done on it. It's not where you could just leave it alone like you do in the woods because it is near your property. I do think it needs some pruning to keep it safe, but I personally do not believe it is dying.
So my question is this, though, if they don't prune, is it not safe?
There's dead limbs in it that need to be removed for sure, which is a common thing. This does not mean the tree is dying. If you have dead limbs at the top of the tree, that is a dead tree. But when the limbs are lower in the canopy, you know, that's just like maintenance.
Questions? Comments? They would have a.
I'll make a motion to approve, and correct me on the language, amenable to replace it, agreeable to replace, I don't know, what is it?
Well,
With
you know,
2-2-inch
you make
caliber.
a motion to approve, or I'm sorry, grant the appeal.
Grant the appeal.
And
Under
there
the
is an
understanding
understanding.
that they'll
Yes.
place 2 2-inch. caliber. No, I just don't want the trees to die. I mean, I think that's kind of, that's.
Well, there may be a time period in the ordinance that still said it's 1 year. So that's, yeah.
There's the motion.
Is there a second? Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Paul, abstain, having nothing to do with your application or your situation, this property to deliberate and the terms of the ordinance that we have to work with, because we to choose to abstain. That's the only part.
Ms. Sally?
I'm with Tracy, I abstain.
Bobby? Manager?
Oh. Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
And where does that leave us?
Mark Thomas.
So I'm voting.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Please, multiple trees.
All right.
Thank you for coming back. and
Thanks very much.
appreciate the-
Appreciate it.
Chris,
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
just because we have people lined up to do this, I mean, it's super responsive for us, but we just haven't been able to reach it. Might be the holiday, you know, time, like the traveling, who knows? Our application was filled out with his name. If for some reason he doesn't respond, can we use someone else who's on the borough list?
Christie will send you a letter with what happened tonight, and then if there's a change in contract, just let her know.
Okay.
She'll work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Next,
Thank you, Sharon.
thank you, Sherry. Next up, we have the proposed e-bike and e-scooter ordinance. I'm gonna mention again, at the last meeting I saw it, I don't know if it's the same kids, I saw it again today, on e-bikes going down Ridge Road doing pop wheelies. I think it's a emergency type situation waiting to happen. Talked to the chief a little bit. You know, they did some research. Chief, would you like to speak at all to?
We just looked at a bunch of different ordinances from different towns, and we put this together. We think it's a good starting point and we can work with. You know, we can always come back because it's exactly what we need and talk to, Andy the other day, it's a couple days ago about it, we're gonna work on it, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, I think the basic one is perfect.
You know, personally, I think it's a great starting point. We certainly don't want to ban e-bikes. You know, we realize in a small town, you know, we know that a lot of families like to use them. We do think that there is a purpose to them, however, they need to be used safely. With that, I'll open up to council.
And, you know, you're not alone, obviously, almost every town's had the same situation. And look at, we found some ordinances out there, look at, every town's in the process.
I got one from our codification company. So I was asking her where our chapter is, so.
Anyone up here, we've had a chance to review over the past several days. Any
I
comments,
have one comment.
questions?
I love it. Great start. Huge supportive of it. To me, when I look at this ordinance, it comes down to probably extreme safety. And I think there was an incident with a bike not too long ago, in a different town, with head injury and whatnot. I don't think the violations and penalties are strong enough to deter the bad behavior. And when you're talking about, God forbid, a kid or even adult for that matter, getting to an accident, hitting their head, and the consequences that could happen, I think there needs to be a further penalty for that. I just don't see that this is going to be a deterrent of behavior. The mandatory court appearance for the second one, yeah, I think time is very important to people, but I don't think it strikes a balance between the risk of somebody breaking the law and then the deterrent.
Is there a recommendation you'd be making towards?
I mean, at the very least, I would double it. But I have no data points to back that up.
Councilwoman DiMatteo?
Just a couple of small points. This one, F, it says prohibited from operating anything on any of the borough property or recreation areas, including borough dock, Fairhaven Fields and Fairhaven Fields natural trails. I understand why we're doing that, but I just wonder if that's like a little bit hard to enforce, like in Fairhaven Fields specifically, is the one that kind of triggered for me. So they can't go in any borough property at all. Is that what that's saying?
Fairhaven Fields
Right,
and
yeah.
Fairhaven Fields nature trails. That's the way it would read.
Yeah, so I just, we could discuss it a little bit, like, is that realistic?
Yeah, I think it was really meant for like in the trails, right?
Yeah.
Right in the trails and the in the grass area, on the grass area, the trails up there. Really wasn't meant for, maybe not worded correctly, but that's.
So I think we might want to change the wording on that, because like, what about the parking lots and.
You need to make it like the trails, grass area, any trail.
Are you including the stone dust trails? and
Yeah,
trails?
trails, any prepared trails, I guess we could say.
Okay, there's a lot of kids that ride in traffic, so I don't know who you want to call that, it doesn't matter to me, but I think, is that what you're saying?
Kind of, yeah, because it would limit, if they are using it as a mode of transportation, then where can they park their bikes?
Yeah, I think that would have been like something that next that way, just like.
Yeah.
Come out that way.
So that one, that was just one, I thought age was a little bit vague, but maybe not to everyone else, it says they can't go at a speed faster than is reasonable or proper. I mean, I don't, pretty vague, but I don't even feel that, is there anything more specific we could say, or?
I mean, what resonates with me on that, when I'm following the speed limit of 20 right on Ferryman Road and an electric bike shoots past me at 25. To me, that's what I read into H, but I prefer to.
I think it should be what's, like, what's to say there exactly what's reasonable or
It says, yeah, so no person shall operate, is it,
safe
Yeah.
manner, like safe manners, yeah.
yeah, speed faster than is reasonable, proper,
Because
taking into account.
if you put
traffic.
that, you could go to the speed limit, let's assume, right?
Yeah,
Then what's to stop you from doing 20, maybe 20 is not safe, but that kid that's on it, that's, you know.
Well, it's similar to like the careless driving statute.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, you might think it's careless driving, others might say, it's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I think
You know,
that-
it's up to interpretation.
I guess that's what I'm trying to maybe take out the interpretation and make it a little bit more specific, but I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, because if you put like won't exceed the speed limit, but again, then you can say 25, but we don't have to do 25. So I think if you put the safe speed, I think that kind of gives you a little leeway to either way.
And then, I don't know, just the word attach to your number I, like attach this to a vehicle. I just thought that was interesting. Like, you can't attach yourself to a vehicle.
You can't hold
Well,
on.
it's like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
it reminds me of like, putting it back to the future. But,
It's where kids
On the skateboard.
Yeah. I would put hitch, just because I know Seabright did that, but I understand attach hitch, same thing. So those are my three kind of things.
I mean, this obviously work product that it's breathing, right?
Yeah.
We need to look into it, probably by the time it gets past the winter anyway, and we'll have it for next.
Well, I'm a little bit more optimistic than you are, but thank you for putting a timeline on it, Attorney Sobel.
Get this done tomorrow.
Oh, and the other piece, sorry, can I just add one thing? The other thing was Seabright and I forget New Brunswick, where we looked at, they had something about business, and we didn't mention any business in here. I thought maybe just, even though maybe we don't have businesses that are renting, or businesses that are selling, it wouldn't be bad, since we're making this ordinance, to include that. So Seabright
Right,
has.
is that a
For the
restriction,
future.
is that,
Yeah,
is that a restriction on renting or?
Yeah, is that she's talking about something that Seabright references, businesses that sell or rent.
just putting like, so they know the restrictions as they're selling them, I think was basically kind of it.
They have to communicate to their customer.
Customer, right?
Yeah, who won't rent or lease bikes, no speed, or,
We could even take a step further that any business that does come in here and either rents or sells these electric e-bikes, they would have to provide a copy of the ordinance,
yeah.
as part of their disclosure when they sell the bike.
It's the practicality of enforcing it. Like, I'm all about the great ideas, but when you put an ordinance together, you have to be able to enforce it. And unless we have means, measures, monetary ways to do that, right? I
But
just,
that's, you either provide it or you don't, right? Like, I mean, it's probably more enforceable than the reasonable.
totally get it. I just think it's a balance, right? A practicality we have to make here.
I did have a couple questions. I know, I've seen these and I do see the hazards associated with them. I also want to be careful we're not over policing something that maybe is a parent's job. Having said that though, I don't know much about these. So what is the top speed of an e-bike?
It varies.
Will
It
it
varies,
go higher
They can go up to
than,
25 miles per hour.
so not higher? I mean, all our roads are favored 25 miles an hour or under. So, I mean, these are vehicles, they require, at least the e-bikes, they are required to go not above our speed limit. So,
So we could add there what's reasonable and no time to exceed speed.
yeah,
Something like that.
I think that would be helpful and kind of consolidates the standards, and makes it easier for folks to understand what we're trying to do. I will say also, Chief, while we're engaged with you, do we need special signage of any kind if for rules like this?
I'll defer to the attorney there. I don't think so, right?
Okay, that's good news. I know I see people on these bikes, I see kids around town, of course. Helmet seems like a logical first step, but I also see folks who meet that piece of mobility to get to work, either from the Red Bank area to Seabright. And where I'm going with this is, I'm glad we've got Seabright's ordinance here, feedback line. And maybe it's wise to reach out to Rumson just to create consistency, whether you're using the bike or you're sharing the road with the bike, it would be good if it's the same from town to town. So with that in mind, the kind of less customized our ordinances and the more like, other vehicles that are in the roadway, we can make this. Rather than thinking that it's just kids on bikes or e-bikes, it's really about getting them moving forward in a way that makes sense with the other vehicles there. The only other takeaway that I have, again, with the idea of trying to keep this simple, is it's one thing for us to regulate the way people use these types of multi-mobility, which I think is an important, wonderful part of livability of Fairhaven, is that it becomes incumbent upon us to put in the right infrastructure. Even if it's just painting, which is happening, by the way, piecemeal as road work happens, sort of shallows and sort of bike lanes. And if we're consistent with that approach, it should make more options available for safe multi-mobility. But I want to be careful we don't overdo this and then vary a bunch of rules and nobody sees.
Yeah, like I said, we looked at a lot more, and I think this one's kind of little where it wasn't over restrictive. And whether it had some, I'm not sure what the neighboring towns have, if they have, what is it, I can find out, I'm not sure.
Well, I'm glad we're tackling it, even if I have a slightly more conservative standpoint, I'm glad we're tackling it. And my last comment would have to be the word destroy. I think it is I think it's a healthy penalty if you're 14 or under and you're using your bike wrong and the police call your parents. That's a problem for that person. So I don't know if the bike would have to be destroyed or perhaps auctioned off or donated. I'll throw that out there as something to think about.
I'm sure it might be not prior to me, so I don't need to share it again, but I think just really quickly, remove the word juvenile, I don't think it's relevant. I think we should add something in there about parking. I think we should share this with McNeil, and I think a very simple chart, like New Jersey put out, like an e-bike law chart, very simplistic chart around, miles per hour, parking, like a very simplistic chart. And the simpler we can make this better.
Yeah, I think once we run the ordinance, when we do our bike safety thing, it's before we actually present that, and then we could always ask Sean, to present, put it out, once they have it, sure, yeah.
There's a lot of kids
Like
that
a little,
have
more like
e-bikes.
a quick little cheat.
Perfect. Yeah, that's all. Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Michelle, do you have something?
Yeah, sure, what I was gonna say, is this something we could talk about during like safety?
Sure, yeah.
I think that would be great.
Okay. I'd just like to clarify the point. I would like to get something on the books sooner rather than later. There's no reason to wait on this, and we can always, change it. If we think it's too restrictive or not restrictive enough over time, but this gives the tools for the police to, if they saw the same thing I saw today, to at least be able to pull someone over and say, listen, this is not, you can't do this.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So right now, Chief, if you saw, what do you call it, papa wheelie?
Papa wheelie
Okay.
going 25 miles per hour down Ridge Road in the middle of the road.
Would
With
you
cars behind.
feel it would be appropriate to stop? And, okay. So I think what's super important is we know that our department, our police.
Yeah, they already are, this just gives you a little more restrictions.
So this should be a tool that meets your needs in order to keep our residents safe.
Correct.
This is a better call to a parent than the. If that makes sense.
Yeah. In that case, though, what would that, can you not charge it, can they get in trouble? Like, you would stop them, but.
Well, it depends, like, yes, you need to have a helmet on, or helmet on, the age, but yes, they get full parents, they think about it. I don't know how old, they were talking.
And if you have another recommendation, in the next 2 weeks that you think it should be handled a different way, let me know, and we'll incorporate it.
I'll find out if other towns have ordinances. I don't think they do, but around us,
I just want to double click from a priority perspective, this is top of the list.
This is one of the priorities.
Yeah.
Well, if we're going to rush it, I'm going to need a little bit of chance to talk to Chief. No, I'll bring it up.
Are you looking at
I
introduce the
reach out to
22nd?
Borough Administrator York, and
Okay.
he can facilitate. Moving along to public comment on agenda items. This is for agenda items only. Please observe 3-minute time limit. Please state your name and address for the record. But before I ask the public, real quick, Borough Administrator York, is there anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I just want to thank the governing body for selecting me as the next borough administrator of Borough Fairhaven. It's like a homecoming for me. I started my career here almost 30 years ago, back in 1995, as a 17-year-old dispatcher and special. But it's actually appropriate, my first official meeting was here in Firehouse, because in 31 years ago, a long time ago, in 1993, I was actually a future firefighter. And I actually was part of the Fire Explorer program, and John Felsman, who left, was my advisor. And unfortunately, I did not become a fireman, but I respect all the people that do it. So to have my first meeting here is important, but more importantly, I spent my first 2 years of my career here, and it's great to be back. It's like a homecoming to be able to serve the residents here in Fairhaven. So I appreciate being your next borough administrator.
Is there anyone in the public that has a public comment on agenda items only?
Speaking of bike safety, me and the Fairhaven Scout Troop have just finished the bike repair station in Fairhaven Fields. I'm Jack Rodriguez from 134 Bunwood Drive. So as I said, in Fairhaven Fields, we just installed the bike repair station, which will have a pump and a bunch of wires with tools on them that you can pull out so you can fix your bike. This was an Eagle Scout project for my Eagle Scout rank, and I just want to explain what an Eagle Scout project is. It's a project to kind of coordinate being an Eagle Scout and following through all of the ranks of scouting. As I said, my Eagle Scout project was the bike repair station, and I think this would be a great addition to the community. Like as we're talking about, bike safety is a big aspect to our community since we have a lot of bikers, and having somewhere where you can fix your bike would be a great addition to keeping the bikes in good repair so you can be safe on the road. And I just want to lastly thank all the people who helped me, like Mr. Halpern, the DPW, and all the scouts and donations from people throughout the community.
Good job.
Is that something maybe we could put in the buzz to let people know that it's there?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
We should promote it. It's awesome. Thanks, Jack.
Anyone else? Public comment, agenda items only? Allison, is there anyone online?
We have 15 attendees, but no hands up.
Okay, thank you. Moving along, approval of minutes, June 11th, 2024, regular meeting, June 24th, 2024, regular meeting and executive session. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmember Paul? Yes. Ms. Ellen? Yes. Kelly? Yes. Robert?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving along, old business, hearing and adoption of ordinances. 2024-07, amend chapter 30, land use and development regulations to comply with NJDP stormwater management rules. Do I have a motion to open?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Does anyone have any comments on this? Questions?
I could kick us off, Mayor, if that's acceptable.
If you have any comments, questions, sure.
I'd firstly like to thank Mr. York for circulating. I was a little late in the day, but I really appreciate you circulating the PowerPoint presentation. Two things I take away, and I don't know if everybody's had a chance to review it. Will that be actually presented at a council meeting? It was. Was that the? When they presented. So the two things, yeah, it seemed a little fresh, maybe since I took the other training, but the two things that I took away from it is that we're in the middle of the process. There's just going to be additional changes this is ongoing, and we're taking sort of one bite at a time. And then as part of the process, we'll seek the comments of residents, environmental commission, planning board, members of the planning board, that there's going to be opportunities for that kind of contribution from the other members of the community. And I think that's going to really help in improving this as we continue to take bites of the ordinance. And I wanted to just ask one question, which I think because the comment, but it's for our engineer. Rich, Jim, I wanted to ask you, so the term major development is the term that seems to be the most is governing for this particular bite of the apple. Can you give us an example of what a major development in Fairhaven would be?
Well, that's an interesting question because Fairhaven, the trend that's happened in the last 10, 20 years for development is mainly redevelopment. It's knocking the building down, building a new building, or adding on to an additional building and doing some minor site changes and improvements. So by definition, for DEP, we typically do not fall into that category of major development for the projects that come before the land use boards. So that's basically in a nutshell what it is. It has to do with acreage of the site, it has to do with disturbance of the site, it has to do with adding additional impervious coverage to the site. Much of the area is obviously built out. Even as this site, it's already concrete, pavement, buildings. That's what we have. It's all downtown.
So with that in mind, this then is not going to specifically impact too much in terms of the regulations.
Well, to your point, this is an ongoing process. The intent of tonight, which is the final reading and adoption, is to be in compliance with the DEP. We had some time constraints that we were up against. We worked with the attorney to get this ordinance updated. We presented at a meeting, Nick and myself, a couple months ago. That's when that PowerPoint presentation was presented. And we've obviously had continued conversations at our engineering and DPW meetings, and looking at, and also discussions with our land use boards to do what other tweaks we need and what fits Fairhaven. Because it's not always one size fits all. Every project's different and things are going to be impacted based on these ordinances, whether it's the cost for the improvement, the enforcement, the engineering review, the list goes on. So there is another round of changes that are going to be made, amendments that will be made in the coming months. So Nick in my office, we've been discussing and talking and also doing various phone calls with some of these groups to keep the dialogue going.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Can I wait?
Sure.
I agree. I think this is a good start, and obviously we have to do it. So necessary. I think it's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. We obviously redevelopment, I think, is one that we need to address. You had mentioned additions, renovations aren't addressed here, and then new builds or residential is not really kind of. This isn't touching any of that. So I think they're obviously I'm happy that this is there, but more needs to be done. And Tracy, I think like the colonial court would actually count for this. Just
I think that's what makes
as a point of reference, but there aren't that many places in town that would fall under this, but that would, so more to be done is, I guess, just what I'm saying.
Colonial court if it started over, like if it were.
If it started over, it
Yeah.
doesn't fall into this now,
Right,
yes,
yeah.
but it would have, unfortunately.
Anything else? Anyone from the public have a comment on 2024-07? Allison, anyone online? Have a motion to close?
Motion closed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion to approve.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Paul,
Yes.
Pinisella,
Yes.
Bowie. Yes. Alvarez.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving along, new business, introduction of ordinance 2024-10 to amend the borough fee schedule. Any questions?
Just calling out the two changes, Mayor, right? So the brush code amounts were updated based on the ordinance that was approved several months ago, and then the recycling added in there.
And I just have clarification, if I could, question. Wow, this is this first year of the new program, and we had brush season, we're sort of in the brush season, and then we're gonna have a fall. So, well, let me back up and say, we were doing, well, I wanna know that we're still sending out notices that explain the law so that people can learn it before they're fine.
I think so.
Yeah.
I have them in as every day.
Yes, okay, I think creating a window for people to learn is a helpful way to bring about compliance before fines.
Anyone that is going to receive a summons would receive a warning before.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Do I have a motion approved?
Motion to approve.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmember Hall. Yes. Stephen Sally. Yes. Cody. Yes. Robert.
Yes.
Thank you. Next up, Grant Committee Summary Report.
Do you want us to run through this? Would you like, because Michael and I are prepared to kind of walk the council through it if you prefer. You have a summary in front of you. And this is a list of 10, one of which was not templated, but the other 9 were templated summaries that were submitted to council for consideration. Of those 9, we have 2 that were awarded, several that no action was taken, meaning council did not pursue the grant that was templated and put before council for consideration. And then we have some that the volunteers on the grant committee submitted but were declined. And I could just quickly go through it. I could jump in here wherever you would like. The community-based area management grant, which is basically a forest health survey, was awarded. That's a 100% fee, the grant that's awarded to cover the complete fee that CME would for CME services to prepare a forest health survey. We're just waiting on DEP to send along a contract, I believe. We're going for that. Well, we applied for it and it was awarded. Then we applied for a sign to be on the New Jersey Black Heritage Trail. That application, we got, I may have seen it in the newspaper, this trail. It's, there were about 3 locations in Red Bank, and we received an phone call from the New Jersey Historic Trust, who would very much like us to tweak some of the wording in the application and resubmit it. They know all about Bicentennial Hall. In fact, they know about the site management application, which is this the 3rd one down that was also submitted to New Jersey Historic Trust. This was the application, if you recall, the re-resolutions, we received money. There were 3 resolutions. One where we would receive $5,200 from the Historic Association of Fairhaven to pay the engineering firm, planning engineering firm, Colliers, to prepare the application. And then this body again adopted the 3rd resolution to support the application. The wording in the resolution, which was the 3rd of the 3 resolutions, was a little off. We didn't include the numbers. That is total cost of the application, which the total, amount that we applied for was about $52,000. And the match was 25%. So we didn't have the 25% of about 12,000, nor did we have the figure of the total cost for the services that would be provided by the planning firm. It seems that the Historic Trust Office is proceeding with their review of the application and is looking for a site visit to be scheduled, I believe, Allison, you probably are aware of that, and Mr. York,
Yes.
you're aware of that. That's the status of that one.
I just want to qualify, because I remember this one, the governing body agreed, but wouldn't agree to commit to the 25%. Wasn't that how that was awarded when we met? Because it was a tie 3-3.
The resolution did not specify.
I'm not saying what the resolution says, I'm saying what the governing body agreed to is not, the governing body would not commit to.
The contingency.
The governing body did not commit to any match. That resolution, the sample of which included blank spaces for the match to be identified, was submitted to staff that the numbers came in late, so they didn't get dropped into the resolution for the governing body's consideration. The discussion that night included, shouldn't we, could we look to local partners to help come up with that 25% match? But the action that was taken supported the application in the absence of the match. Which is your point.
No, is there a condition of the grant that in the resolution, it has to state that the borough is willing to match 25%? Is that a contingency within the grant?
Yes, in fact, I didn't even consider it an application without that language because the template that was submitted by Colliers to our office included that language, which we didn't put in the resolution. Therefore, the application, I thought, was incomplete, technically not even an application. And then the office reached out to for a site visit.
So why would they reach out if the borough didn't, I just don't want to get jammed up and have to commit to money if something gets the ball rolling. So if it's contingent upon the borough agreeing for a 25% match, and that is not in there, why would they be scheduling a site visit based on that?
I don't know. I was made aware of this from the Colliers team. The email came into the office, but I was not made aware. So I couldn't answer that question, but I think Mr. York
Chris,
probably.
Maybe we can get we just get a copy of what was said. You know, we can share it for
I just want to make sure that,
Well, there's no additional risk on the borough
Well,
because we didn't put it in our ordinance.
But we can't get this approved without the ordinance stating. that.
Correct.
Correct, so resolution. Maybe we should take a look at what was said.
well, yeah, but I just don't want to get ahead of ourselves. If we're having a site visit, I would assume that they think that they have a complete application and it's approved to go forward, but the resolution doesn't have that. So I just, Chris, if you can look into it,
Yeah.
just make sure.
And I was just made aware of the site visit today, the email, that there has not been a date set up, sort of correspondence, with Tracy and school about this afternoon, and there's not been a date set up, so I've not heard anything back. We can look into that tomorrow.
But to be clear, we would need to amend the resolution if we do want to move forward with this.
Well,
Yeah,
I think we were pretty clear that it's not support for it. We
Well,
already had this discussion.
excuse me, the resolution didn't even, this council didn't even need to get to contemplate that. It was a different resolution that doesn't even include the numbers. So,
Councilman Cole, we spoke very clearly about the estimated amount. I said multiple times, if I was going to vote yes, I looked at the members that were applying for this. I said, do you understand the risk involved? Because we're not going to commit to the match. Yes, we understand the risk involved. Then we went for a vote, it came back to me, and I said, again, you understand the risk involved. I'm not committing to the match here. I'll commit to moving forward without the match. Said, yes, move ahead. So it had nothing to do with the amount of money. We contemplated how much the amount of money
it
was.
was.
We all discussed that.
Mr. Mayor, why would you accept the donation from the Historic Association and then also agree to
Oh, no, no,
spend,
no.
excuse me, let me finish, and then agree to spend that money to prepare an application?
But so I put it back on you. I was very, very clear multiple times on that night. I wouldn't push it on me that why would I accept it? Why would you want to move forward if I was very clear that there was risk involved and you could potentially put yourself in this type of situation? And I'd be happy to review the tape and go over it multiple times to show you how many times I was clear about the risk.
The risk being,
The risk being that we would get to a point where you would spend money on Colliers and not be able to move forward to get the grant because we weren't committing to the risk.
who would have ever contemplated that in their right mind?
That was the entire.
That would be
discussion.
our
All right.
We can look at minutes.
It was the discussion, it wasn't what
So here's the situation at the moment, and then we can continue with the summary. If the New Jersey Historic Trust chooses to proceed with the review of the application, which I take that as a good sign, we see some potential. If there is an award, we can then also consider if there is going to be any kind of financial participation and what entity might help provide that.
And I would agree with that if there's no risk on behalf of the borough, which is what I said in the first place. If we don't have to risk anything, I would be willing to have that conversation at that time. So if this entity is willing to provide the grant in that name, at that point, we'd have that discussion. But what I'm hearing right now is they wouldn't be willing to do that unless the language is in the resolution for us to commit to it, which this governing body already discussed, and it's very clear that we're not willing to get that risk.
I think, I don't know about the very clear, you were very clear, but I didn't think the governing body was given a resolution.
That's Brian actually changed his vote based on that condition.
But if
Councilman
we
Olson.
did, if we did it the other way though, we don't know for sure how the votes would fall. Like if we did include the dollar amount, we don't know how the votes would fall.
So if this entity says that they don't need the commitment in the resolution, then there's no risk on behalf of the borough. It meets the need of what I'm asking.
Mayor, I'm gonna work with Chris, and we're gonna, see what we can do to, fulfill the obligations of the resolution, as well as see what we can do to get this application.
That would make me very comfortable.
It is promising, though, that they did schedule a site inspection, because usually they said that it was included, we're not even gonna consider it. That would be concerning. If they're scheduling a site inspection, that means most likely, just from a common sense perspective, that they're going to proceed. Let's see what Chris and I will work on this.
Which goes back to my original comment that there's no risk on our behalf right now, because our resolution reads that we don't have the match. If they want to set up an appointment and have that appointment and take a look at it, then let them take a look at it.
Can I just be clear,
Sure.
though? The resolution didn't say we wouldn't do it. We're just saying we're not committing to it.
Right.
We're not saying absolutely we're not gonna do it.
Right.
And that wasn't like,
That's right. That's fair.
Say it again.
the resolution doesn't say that we are not committing to it. The
Correct.
resolution says we are.
It just doesn't
It's
have
not saying we're
a,
not going to do it. It's just saying we don't.
it
we're
doesn't,
not
we do
committing
not
to it.
commit to match to the 25%.
And Mayor, I just listen, the reason I'm bringing it up is we're contemplating, right, with the trash and recycling bid to remove service, right? Because of cost. So I want to make sure that we're not put in a situation where we're forced to make a decision. So that's the only reason why I'm raising this. I want to keep that top of everybody's mind, right, of what we've been talking about, so.
The amended resolution deadline that we're given is August 1st. So you have one more meeting.
So I have the contact information from Councilman Cole, the individuals in this work. I'll reach out to them tomorrow, find out what we have to do to comply with the resolution and set the site inspection, see where we go from there.
The last word on this is, we willingly accepted a donation from a local nonprofit, and we spent that donation to complete an application. That doesn't mean that we have to pay $12,000, but it does mean we took steps to support the application, which is clearly stated in the resolution.
But hang on, I
fourth-
just, I
the
want to
fourth
click on that,
grade.
I'm sorry, I want to go click on that, right? Because I vividly struggled with this decision when I said no, right? It also comes down to the intent in which the decisions were made, right? And I know that I personally sat up here, spoke, because I went and spoke to Elise Casey after this and apologized for not saying yes, because I was not comfortable with taking a $5,200 donation to pay for it with the chance that they wouldn't move forward. So I don't want it to be on the record that, hey, we all said, spend the $5,200, and now we're gonna pull the rug out underneath. The intention was extremely clear from the beginning, and all three resolutions, although individual, were looked at cohesively because all three were required at that moment in time to submit to meet the deadline that we had for this grant.
That was your vote, but this body took action. that was inconsistent with your position.
I hear that. Well, first of all, it's 3-3, right? I hear what you're saying, but there wasn't unanimous support. I don't want there to be a misperception.
It was 5-2 against. Brian and I changed our votes in support of it, as long as there was not risk to the borough in the form of a match.
That's all I was saying is that the governing body is in support. What individual votes were is obviously irrelevant after.
Without handcuffing us to the match.
Correct.
Which inherently means there's risk of taking the $5,200 donation and not going forward with it.
The fourth grant is called the Vibrant Places Grant that was submitted in 2023. That volunteers prepared that grant application, just declined. The Stormwater Assistance Grant, which is on here, however, that's really more of the staff took care of that in that the new stormwater regs came out and therefore the state offered funds to facilitate coming into compliance.
When do we need to use that one by? Sorry to interrupt. I know, is there a deadline on that one, Rich?
The storm, the 25,000.
I'm sorry. It's been years since that one was awarded, the stormwater assistance grant.
We have to look at the,
I don't recall the specific date.
No?
We
Okay.
can,
It's been years, so I'll make sure we don't lose.
And I don't
I
know
care
what
about
we're
lobbying
using it for,
for,
so, and once we decide, I wanna know what it's used, being used for.
we'll take a look at it.
Mount County Improvement Fund was templated and put before the council. This is a, if you recall, a grant for up to $500,000 with a 50% match. This council did not take action on that. Green Acres, this is a universal playground design, was templated but not pursued. Then the Green Acres Stewardship Fund, again, templated but not pursued. The FEMA flood mitigation assistance grant, which was done, again, last year, we threw together a letter of intent, a local environmental engineer and a team of us over a few days. It was not selected, but it was kind of a Hail Mary anyway. We're hoping to find some money for Janelle. And then also the volunteers put together an application, which was also templated, brought before the council for the New Jersey Asset Activation Planning Grant. We would have been competing with regional players and major urban centers, which we did not pursue. And that's an overview of the current grant applications. And it's our intention, and we can discuss this if the council would like, but hopefully this provides for you a sort of snapshot of what has occurred since the grants committee was formed.
Why we did not pursue playground grant?
I don't recall. There is 100%.
I know there was over an ounce about it, I'm just curious.
Yeah, this one, I believe. No, I don't think we did. I think that that's ongoing. And we can look at that, the grants committee can look at that for the next board product, which we want to give you, which is more of an overview or a look ahead. But what I understand about that, I'd have to go back to my notes though, is that that's a very robust funding vehicle for inclusive playgrounds.
Yeah.
So that might be something to consider.
Yeah, every playground now is moving in the direction of being an inclusive playgrounds, and we've been talking on the rec committee about doing something in partnership with the BOE. So we should stay connected on that. I think the application is coming out in November. I think it closes in like February or something. So we already have it on our radar. We should talk. We definitely should partner with
Okay.
that.
I think in general, though, like, not all of these will necessarily be next year, but most of these probably will. Some of them change, like there was like a forestry one that was a huge amount of money, now it's less, and it didn't happen quite at the same timing. But I'd like to use this a little bit as a roadmap as we figure out what our, we've talked about what our priorities are moving forward and how these could possibly fund, since we are coming in a tight crunch next year, and what we could match and what we, so I'd love to use this as a roadmap. Plus, there are more grants that come out as well. And I think it is important that we're more communicating with the administration side of things versus just having these grants committees sort of floating out there separately.
I agree, I love that. What I'd also love is to understand how we balance identification and research and then bringing it to the governing body so that not so much work is done, so that the governing body can get the direction to keep moving forward with it. 'Cause the thing that I hate is when we waste volunteer hours,
Yes,
right? And
agreed.
some of these, there are volunteer hours not wasted in the sense of we don't value what they're doing, but if it doesn't move forward, it's like all that work is for naught. So I love the idea of a roadmap. I love the idea of timing it, because then I think that'll make us use our time more effectively.
But I do think it's gonna be important for us to figure out the priorities of it.
Yeah, because there's any best practices on how other towns do this.
I'm sorry, can you hear you?
Any best practices on how other towns do grant process or what?
Each town has their own separate model. I mean, some towns have professionals who work within the borough government that do it. Some towns have their committees built through their mayor council. Every town's different, it depends on what fits. We can discuss this further.
And I think one thing might be is, I don't know how we could make this happen, but with the committee, maybe have someone from the grant committee meet with different committees and commissions to find out what their needs are moving forward, and what they're talking about, to have more communication that way.
And just, it would be helpful if I was included on all the communications and meetings and emails for this committee, because I am on every other committee, and it might help for me to integrate with everyone else.
On everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. One thing I will say is we meet monthly as a committee. And the grants kind of come out at a fairly furious rate. And there are times when we're very thoughtful about what we try to give council. Also, it's not our place to deny you information that we think might be relevant for the things we sort of know are important. So it's a struggle to kind of vet everything and also do it within the time frame without missing a deadline for an actual application should council choose to act. So where I'm going with this is, it's not feasible for a group of volunteers to meet more frequently than once a month, but we might want to put more than one template in front of you at a time, and maybe with a little more lead time if we can manage it. Would that be tolerable? I know there's so much information that comes in these packets. How does that feel to you?
You mean at a meeting? As long as there's advance notice. I mean,
Well, that's
you know,
what I'm
we don't want to receive, you know, a template on a Friday and be told, well, the deadline is Monday. If we have 3, 4, or 5 weeks of advance notice where we can review it, put it on an agenda, workshop it, discuss it, that's a totally separate situation. I would assume from, you know, before the grant committee was set up and all these emails come to me, I see a lot of the same grants coming out every single year. So if we build some sort of a timeline where we expect it to come out, you know, the worst that happens is it doesn't come out like it did the year before, and then we have nothing to discuss. But if it comes out as we expected, then we had 3 or 4 months to prepare for that grant, have a discussion, figure out whether it meets a priority or need for the borough, and then we can move forward.
Yeah, and to kind of add to that, though, I think some of these weren't pursued because there was a little bit of a limitation on how many grants we could get on the agenda to discuss. So if we know that we can get more than one, because some of them time out around the same timing, so we can't separate them. And so we did miss a couple opportunities because we couldn't get them on the agenda. So I think if we could just make sure that you're okay with us getting multiple on the agenda at the same time.
As long as we have the advance notice, to put them on the agenda, absolutely. You know, if they're reasonable as to what we're trying to achieve here in the borough.
So the next, and I welcome, Michael, I would welcome your contributions, but the next work product we'd like to generate is exactly that, sort of a look ahead, meaning based on the patterns that we've seen since the committee's formation, what we can anticipate in the new year and throughout the year. We'll do our best. Obviously, agencies can change that. Exactly. Sometimes we only have 60 to 120 days to turn these things around, but.
When you do that, can I make a request to include the match and then maybe sync with finance and know whether the match should be in cap or out of cap? Because I think that would also help too.
I fully agree with you. This committee can't really be effective in a silo. But with that said, it might be better to have someone from finance join us rather than us trying to, or perhaps if Mr. York could be on the committee. I've maintained from the beginning, we really do need a staff person just to do all that departmental interfacing. Finance being one of them, that would basically make it a little more effective. I think that's doable.
Yeah, and Councilman Paul, I have, experience, over my career with many successful grants, so I'd be happy to serve to help you guys.
Most welcome. So if you have any thoughts about what you'd like to see on the look ahead, please send it along to my brother. Excuse me, Councilman Lisa.
Before we move on, any questions?
Super helpful.
Good? All right, moving along, consent agenda. We're talking resolutions 2024-176 through 2024-183. Before I ask for a motion, does anyone want to separate any of these resolutions? Does anyone have any questions or comments in the resolutions? Do I have a motion to approve? Motion to approve.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Paul, yes. Ms. Sally? Yes. Yes. Robert?
Yes.
Thank you. Next up, department reports, June 2024, municipal clerk dog license. Do I have a motion to accept the reports as submitted with thank you? Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Good to the borough, so I think, but it is good to the borough. Good to the borough time. It's good to the borough portion of the agenda. Please stand, identify yourself. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Anyone in the public? So the borough, yes.
Steve Heller, 32 Fisk Street. I just have a question, and I was at the meeting when the vote was made on this particular proposal. And I think it's being generally represented as what happened at the meeting. There was a lot of discussion. The council was asked for the $5,000 or whatever it is to get this thing going. And then it was going to come back and there might be an obligation or not for the other 25%. And there was a 3-3 vote. The mayor broke the tie. And I think you were very clear that you weren't committing to the 12,000, but you looked at the Historic Association and said, you understand, I'm not committing to this. So that, I believe that's what happened. And I hope it's out of capital, so it makes the decision easier. But I just wanted to make a comment that this Fisk Chapel work has been delayed so many times, and it's never urgent. I mean, the trash thing has become an urgent issue. The bicycle are urgent. This is a very important thing to the town if we can do it right. So I hope you find the prioritization of that. But my question was, after you provide the $5,000 and you get this initial piece back, what does the council, what kind of information does the council get to decide if it's important enough to chip in the other $12,000, or they have to ask the Historic Association to find it? What comes back? Am I reading it right that there's a step before that 25% is due?
There's a question, in this instance, and obviously, Mr. Sobel and Mr. York are going to I'll speak this a little bit, but if the New Jersey Historic Trust is proceeding with their review of the application and chooses to look well in the Bicentennial Hall as a potential candidate worthy of funding,
right?
It would be contingent upon a 25% match. Now, where that match comes from would be a discussion for the community between the Historic Association and the governing body, of course, or even, I don't know, but the, that question, it is not before us tonight because we don't know the status of a pending award.
My question is, if they are supportive of the grant and they come back, what kind of information will the council get from them to say, we've done A, B, and C, we think this is a good grant for historical purposes and for the purpose. Is the council going to get some help to make that decision to go forward with the other $12,000? Because it was sort of split down the middle. People weren't sure, but I was saying the risk the only risk was the real $5,000 to get started. That was my impression. That was, you're out the $5,000, but if you don't do it, you're sort of nowhere with a plan. I'm just trying to,
Let me just
and
quantify.
I'm not talking about the checklist and the
Yeah,
the
because
physical
so,
part.
yeah, and I just want to clarify,
Yeah.
right, because bicentennial is a priority for us, right? The ADA drawings are in, right, they're authorized to go out to
Good.
bid. The 10-year maintenance plan, that was approved to get going, and the punch list item is currently actively underway, right?
Right,
This was the fourth piece, and Trace, correct me if I'm wrong, from a designing perspective.
yes,
About what the use of bicentennial hall should be going
Yes.
forward.
communications and messaging.
Correct, so I just want to discern between those, right?
Okay.
And programming is the
Programming,
other.
programming,
part of that.
programming.
Yeah, whether or not it's an exhibit space or host events, those would be questions for the community to
Well,
discuss.
so will the council get even a mini roadmap or a suggestion of what the full project would be when they're asked to approve that extra 12,000?
No, I mean, basically, we just get approval of the grant. They would say,
Okay.
yes, you've got to approve it, and then it's on us to decide if we want to use it, and then we have to hire. The next step would be, we decide that we're using it, and we would hire planners who would then come help us
Okay,
use that money to
okay.
get all the information that we would
Right.
need to decide what's next step with bicentennial
So you
Hall.
need to make the case,
Yes.
strongly of what the value of all that is.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of
To the
value.
council and to the community.
Yeah,
But the grant that was submitted includes the plan.
Well, it includes the planning process. It doesn't speak to any specified plan because those are questions.
Right, but it speaks to what the money would buy, right?
Yes,
Like,
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So
I think so.
that's, in the grant that was submitted, that's
Right.
spelled out with what
Right,
we're trying
okay.
to answer.
Correct.
all right,
Does that
okay,
answer?
thank you.
Anyone else in the public? For the borough? Allison?
My name is John Feeney.
Tell the group to hold on one second. Okay? Go ahead, I'm sorry, sir.
My name is John Feeney, I'm from Carter Ave, Perry. I just want to bring this up, it's a new thing, but at the end of Baton Road, there are two very large potholes. They're put 45 inch deep. I go down there every morning, I make sure it's not worse than the. And, anyway, right now, kids at the sales over there. Fall on it all the time. And it's an ankle breaker, because the first day here for a long time. And that's a real ankle breaker. And I don't know what can be done about it, but it is two very large problems.
Thank you, you came to the right place. Thank you for letting us know. Obviously, we'll put that into our audit of all the roads. I'm sure the next time we address potholes, we'll take a
Is
close
this,
look at that.
is this part of where the improvements to the end of Baton?
We have to look at the location.
And isn't near the boat ramp?
At the boat ramp or the entrance, the stone entrance? At the boat ramp.
Yeah.
On the ramp.
Do we have to wait?
So that's gonna get better.
On the ramp itself?
Yes.
Oh, we're redoing the whole ramp. So that will be addressed. Yep. Anyone else in the public? Please state your name and address.
Elise Casey, 268 Prairie Grove. I was just curious of the status of McCarver Pond and what's happening with that.
Do you have an update on the meeting?
Yeah, I could speak to it. So, in consultation with Brian, and we were gonna do this at the next meeting for a workshop, but, so if you're looking, I'm not good with geographics. A DEP expert came out and
The south, it's the south.
a DEP expert came out and the southmost end has converted to wetlands. Can't be touched. I mean, technically it can, but it requires a significant amount of resource. The thought process is, and again, this was brought up for workshop at the next meeting, and I don't know what speaking much, is to have a volunteer event to clean the vegetation around the remaining perimeter that wasn't touched, almost create like a horseshoe. And then in the fall, would have the same hydro raking company come back out and keep hydro raking to get the pond back up to a state of maintainability. Don't know, again, we got a workshop it, but that's where it stands as of.
It needs additional hydro raking, and that was understood even initially. We knew we were gonna have to do it again, we had to wait certain interval to handle payments.
But you guys are gonna need a group of volunteers to.
Now that I can speak to.
I think there was a discussion about, edges.
Correct.
That we could
Edges only.
impact on the edges
Yes.
with the volunteer. The idea to get in there and start digging out the shovels sounded like
Yeah, it's
it's not
safety,
something we can do.
danger.
Is there a time frame or any kind of potential?
Can we table it till the 22nd of July when we workshop it? Because I want to talk to Brian and stuff like that.
There's some ideas, I asked for us to put it out to bid, there wouldn't be a time, we wouldn't be handcuffed by time if we did that, but it opens us up to potentially getting a bidder that doesn't do the work properly. If we wait, I want to say it's an 18-month period, we could use the vendor we want if we keep it under a certain spend. The risk there obviously is the pond further converts to wetlands. So there is some risk, I think we need to discuss it. Yeah.
We'll workshop it. There's a lot of information with filtration and all this other stuff. So.
And the green, you know, I'm told that that's pesticides and chemicals. You know, in the past, obviously, we used.
The green's algae.
I think
from all the
And
organics,
it's fed by fertilizer.
I think it's fed by fertilizer.
but previously they didn't use the sodium phosphate or the sodium copper, right? Because there was too much of the chemical.
That's the treatment that.
That was,
yeah. So if we use the treatment, which is a chemical, we could make it look nicer, then we'll put in that into the natural environment.
The pumps are there, they seem to work, but they don't seem to all be on. Are they all functioning?
That's a question more for Rich.
I think they are. They weren't all put they were because exercise. They're a little closer spaced than they were, but everything seems to be.
Thank you. Anything else in the public? Public comment? Name and address, please.
Diana Antonin, 92 Baton Road. It's just a general comment sitting here, listening to the conversation about Bicentennial Hall and McCarter's Pond. I can't help but notice, like, I'm driving around town and I'm feeling like, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I wonder priority-wise, you know, we've got, all of the roads are being repaved, which is good. It's, you know, if you live on the roads, it's a nice feeling to drive on a freshly paved road, but we've been given these things in this town, McCarter's Pond being one of them, Bicentennial Hall certainly being one of them. That's for us to upkeep as well, generationally, and I think we're failing them. I really do. I think that we're prioritizing things that are good for a few people instead of things that are really good for the whole holistic town, that are important to our community. It's what makes us us. Bicentennial Hall has been here since the 1800s. McCarter's Pond even longer. From a historical aspect, I think we should, as a body, I challenge you to figure out what the focus is. If it's a paved road or if it's a pond that we've now hydro raked 3 or 4 times to no avail. Like it just feels like, you know, Bicentennial Hall has paint chipping from it. Why are we letting it get to that point? You know, what are we putting things towards? So that's my
Thank you.
takeaway.
I understand your comments. I don't necessarily agree. I think that we have prioritized as many things as possible. We have a very limited staff. We have very limited finances. It would be great to have, you know, 60 borough employees every single day that we can put to work on all of these projects simultaneously and have an unlimited amount of money to put towards all these projects. Unfortunately, that's just not the situation we're in. But I hear you, and I hear that those two are two important components of our town and the community, and I think the whole governing body heard it as well. So thank you. Anyone else? Public comment? Anyone? Ms. Blazer. Hi, Ruth.
Good evening. Speaking of ponds, have you looked at Schwenker's Pond lately?
Yes.
This comes up every year. Why is it not dealt with more proactively? Hello?
So to answer, I was just making sure you're waiting for an answer. Ruth, to answer your question, I think what we discussed when we started doing the Carter Pond was we wanted to see how the money was put to use as far as the hydro rating was concerned there, see if it was something that worked. I don't really think we have our answer yet. And this is a quite costly thing for the borough area. So to go
Well,
ahead.
I don't think we're going to hydro rake Schwenker's Pond. I think it's an entirely different entity, except that it also gets, depending on how hot the weather is, a lovely lime chiffon jello coating on top of it, which is really nauseating. I just think that these things are not, since they come up annually, why they are not on some sort of a program that it doesn't come as a surprise every year. And it has to be dealt with up front, like in February, March, some sort of a plan. The other thing being, I'm changing the subject now, do we have a cooling center? And if so, where is it and when is it open?
We do have a plant cooling center at the Borough Hall right now, if we needed it. But right now, we only open it if we lost power.
Did you hear that?
No, the sound on, I'm on my phone, but the sound it has been dreadful this evening. The video is fine, but the sound is dreadful.
The chief said that right now it's Borough Hall, correct? Borough Hall right now.
But only occurs when the power goes out.
Only if the power goes out.
And is that 24/7?
If the power was out, yes.
If the power was out, yes.
Not just 95-degree temperatures.
Right, only be if the power was out.
Only if the power was out. And I just want to elaborate a little bit more on the comments I just made. Listen, all of these things are priorities. And that's sort of the challenge that we have. If we put the money towards the pond, and we put the money towards Bicentennial Hall, we don't pave the roads, then people will say, well, it's safety. And that should be the priority. My kid's skateboarding and cracked his head over it. If we say, all right, well, to address these things, we're going to put an open space tax. Well, then we're raising your taxes. And people say that, we're, causing them to move out of the town because their taxes are too high. Money's fungible. You move it around, we can use it in certain ways. That's part of the discussion that we consistently have to have. We're trying in as many situations as we can to get the most use out of our money and have the greatest impact on our residents. That's ultimately what we're trying to do as a governing body. Are we perfect? No, we're not perfect, but I think we do a pretty good job of being fiscally responsible and trying to address as many things as we can simultaneously.
And not to mention, we don't have a spending problem, we have a cap problem, right?
So,
Can I add to that?
Should we get into the purchase of 21 Fairhaven Road with all these other things on the table?
well, I don't think we should, Ruth. But,
Okay.
That's something that you could have brought up in your 3 minutes, and you're welcome to call back and bring it up again. I actually think it was a fantastic purchase for the borough of Fairhaven. I think it's going to be amazing for our community. We're going to see generations of our sons and daughters raised there, seeing the sunset, enjoying those times with their families, listening to Wednesdays on the Water. From my standpoint, I think that's going to be looked at as a generational purchase. And I think there were probably people here when the borough purchased Fairhaven Fields and said that was a terrible purchase. So give it some time before you solidify your opinion. That's all I would ask of you as a resident of Fairhaven, and let's see how it turns out.
As a response to that, we've got Grange Avenue, we've got Hants Road at the end, we've got De Normandy Avenue Park. It's not like there's no waterfront available to residents.
Yeah, I didn't say that our master plan was very clear from our residents that they were adamant they wanted more access to the river, and this happened to be a purchase of a plot of land right next to our municipal dock. at a financial number that this body felt was reasonable. So we took action and last year's body thought was reasonable. Thank you. So we took action, and again, let's see how that turns out before we solidify. We've discussed this one enough already, I think, at this point. Let's see how we can plan it and see how it turns out.
Can I just add to that? Because I would like to say that I think part of what's happening though is that there are a lot of things that were deferred for a very long time. And with all these purchases and all these big things that we're doing, which are all great, a lot of those things just keep getting pushed off further and further. Even for example, the roof at Bicentennial or at the Borough Hall. That's been 10 years in the making, but now we have to do something. So I think the point is like, are there even little steps we could be doing that would get us to these points where we're now having to make these dire decisions?
Sure, so I just like to.
We've also inherited some problems from prior administration.
I'm saying, I said 10 years. I mean, that's what
actually are. I think we actually are taking steps. So I think we're actually doing a very good job in that regard. I think honestly, all things relative, I think we're really lucky to live in a town where we do prioritize safety, where we are spending, where we do have waterfront property. I think we actually have it pretty good. You know, and I think relative to other places in the world right now, I think we should count our blessings every single day.
And I just want to point out, that's why this governing body has been on a pause. And that's why I've used that term, because we can't tackle new expenditures and new projects, because we have to start taking care of what we have and start looking at the projects that we have in front of us, the 17 roads, the 3 pocket parks, the hydro rig, all these things that we are doing. That's why we are on the pause. So that's why we haven't tackled the youth center and yet phase 2 to see what we're going to do there next. It's not that we don't want to.
But
we would love to do these things.
Planning, yes, but like pause is, I think, the wrong word, because life keeps happening, the pond keeps getting worse. Like, you know, can't be, like, the environment happens around us. The stormwater is more of an issue now. So I agree. I think there's wonderful things that we're doing, and I'm not blaming the council before us. Everything's been inherited, but it doesn't mean we can't be doing better in our maintenance. And to say we don't have the staff, okay, but then that can't keep being our answer. And I get there's budgetary constraints, but there still have there has to be other answers. Like
those are real things.
Then we get more grants. We are more focused on the grants that we get and how we fund some of these grants that might pay for it. So I just think there are other ways to look at it. I'm not saying, but I hear her point, because one of the reasons I'm sitting here is because of the deferred maintenance on a lot of projects and a lot of our environmental things that we want to pass on to our kids just as much as 21 Fairhaven Road. We want to pass on Bicentennial Hall, which is amazing that we have it. It's our only public heritage site in all of Fairhaven. You know, we want to pass on the ponds. Schwanker's Pond is not really usable. It's not super safe. So I don't disagree that we're doing wonderful things, but I think to say pause isn't the right word, because we still need to figure out if the plan isn't right now, what is the plan in the next 2 months? What's the plan in the next year?
It's a pause on new projects. I mean, I've made that clear because
Yeah, but
of
you
how
can't
much
make that clear. Like, we need to make
we
that clear.
have support for that. We do.
Have we had a big discussion here?
We've had support.
No, I have not had this discussion on.
You've had this discussion with me individually.
And I don't think that that's the discussion that we need to have. And I've discussed that I don't think we should be on pause. So.
But then you're advocating at the same time for saying that we need to do these other projects. You're saying we don't have a cost problem, but you want to do other projects, correct? You want to address other things.
I think there are other ways to address them and different ways to look at it. Again, like I'm new to the governing body and I don't know all of the information and I don't have everything to make these decisions, but I don't think that we can say, let's hold off on Schwanker's Pond that much longer. Like, I think there are other things and,
that's what we do.
And you can't say we have made a decision because we have.
But we have financial restrictions also due to the state. You do understand that. If you're saying we can't say that, that's an actual fact. We have caps that we have to fall under every single year, no matter what we do. Until they change that, there's nothing we can do to change the appropriations cap, to change the tax levy. We can't change these things. It's not like we could just do whatever we want, and to make this argument that we're not trying to stretch our dollars as far as we possibly can in every single situation is disingenuous. It
That's
is.
not what I'm saying. I'm saying in certain situations, we are not, we have no focus.
May I offer?
But that's a different argument. You're saying that in these specific situations, they're not being prioritized. That's what you're saying when you're making that argument.
Or
And,
even
and the idea is we can't make every single thing a priority at the exact same time. It's not possible. If everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. Yes, absolutely.
In light of this robust discussion and things we hear from the residents, of course, in particular, might I suggest that we, as a body, take a couple of meetings in the fall prior to budgeting to bring in our planner, fall planner to do some facilitation in workshop format to identify our priorities, knowing that priorities means some stuff will have to wait, other stuff for now is more important. And then that's something we can use as a roadmap until the master plan gets done and we have something a little bit more guiding for us. It will be like a bridge until that time. I think as a body that would be beneficial. I think those people who attend the meetings and participate regularly would benefit. And we've never done it, but it would be a good idea.
I believe the discussion on the master plan is starting with the planning board as early as this one.
I'm talking about, in the meantime, we honestly have ongoing business to take care of. Whether it's the part of just like, and I don't want to get into the weeds of this, that was my proposal, that we have a couple of workshops set aside to call upon our planner to facilitate a healthy discussion around some priorities until such time we have a master plan that provides guidance. We do not have the analysis that we need to come up with an action plan for Schwenkers, for example. We do not have what we need. We don't have data analysis to make a decision on that. These are things that are, it's information that we can get. We just haven't prioritized it in order to allocate the funding to get that data. But I will tell you, there's grants out there for hydro raking and for dredging, whatever the need may be at Schwenkers. Maybe it's something else. It's gentrifying, it's really solidifying.
So is that grant on this form for the summary, grant summary that you submitted? If they're out there?
One of these does do, but I think it's new. It came out this year.
So I guess that would be my question, is if we're looking at these grants and this is a priority, why did the grants committee?
Is it a priority?
put this
I
forward?
said we're on pause.
Well, I'm asking the question, why wasn't it, well,
Because
I don't think that we ever discussed the inclusive playgrounds as a priority, but it's on your list. So if we're sitting here complaining about the fact that we haven't addressed Schwenkers Pond and these grants that are out there for Schwenkers Pond,
Listen,
I guess I'm
didn't
asking
mean
why
to
it's on the
pick
grant
on
summary.
Schwenkers Pond, and that already came out this year, and it will be in the overview. I don't know, it's brand new because I think dredging requires a level of permitting that they didn't use attached grants to. I'd have to review it to answer your question directly, but there is money out there to help with some of this stuff, but we don't have a clear sense of, we just keep doing what we're doing, but I think people are asking us to tell them what our priorities are, so that at least they know.
That's not, so that's feedback I've gotten in this meeting. I get a lot of feedback from the community. That's not the feedback that I'm getting. I'm just not receiving that feedback. So if you're out there and you want to email me, please email me. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to have those conversations outside of that. You know, what I would say is we have a master plan that's going to go out. We're going to poll the entire community on what their feedback is, and I don't think there's any better document than that to help guide us and put us in the direction that we're supposed to go. That's what I've been operating under. The master plan, now granted it's from 10 years ago now, but I mean, I always thought that's kind of what was supposed to guide us and what we do.
It is. Part of it is a conservation element, which would address some of the primary.
I don't want to circumvent that.
a lot of things that come up are part of the conservation element of the master plan, which is one of the remaining outstanding work products. It has remained outstanding for, I think, 2 decades.
Yeah, I don't know where this is.
Whether that's
I don't know where this is.
policy.
Yeah.
Stephanie Adams has been for 10 minutes now.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, and I think some of my my question was mostly answered. Stephanie Adams, 230 Oxford Avenue. I thought I heard that By Hall was being referred to as a new project, but I think that was clarified that no, there is movement on the ADA work. And then also, I mean, I hear the conversation about there's no money, but my understanding was there's a bond for that work. And once the ADA work is done, then the work on the exterior can begin, correct? Is that correct?
And some of the repairs are inside as well.
Okay. My other question was, I had 2 other quick questions. I was just wondering, you know, the tree appeal that was approved. I'm just wondering, and I had a very similar situation. We had a giant dead limb from our neighbor's tree hanging over our house. We had the people come and look. We had the tree expert come and look. They took the limb down. The tree is thriving. Everything grew back. It's wonderful. And so I was just wondering also, like, you know, I've been hearing a lot of talk just through the green team about the tree ordinance. And I'm just wondering, you know, I know that there was a document out there, you know, is that something that's going to be coming back around? You know, because this is a really mature tree, right? This is a tree that is holding on to a lot of carbon, right? That's now going to be released into the atmosphere. And I'm just wondering if the tree ordinance, if the revised tree ordinance is ever going to be coming back around.
Yes, and I hope it's here as soon as possible. And what I would also say, though, just so you're aware, Stephanie, is the result of that, based on how the ordinance is being proposed, not necessarily supported, but as it's being proposed, would be the homeowner would be allowed to take the tree down, and they would have a choice of replanting trees on their own property based on a call it a key. It's a table. Thank you. Based on a table that's provided, you have 2 options. You could either replace the tree with multiple trees or similar sized trees, or you can put money into a fund to plant other trees around the borough. The goal is obviously to plant more trees than we take down in the borough of Fairhaven, so that when our kids are sitting here 20 years from now, they're breathing more oxygen than we are.
So hopefully, so that should come back around in the fall, because I know Little Silver just passed a pretty, you know, strong tree ordinance, and so I'm hoping that that's something that we can do as well in the near future.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was put forward by the commission, or this is the?
It started as a template that's used by the state of New Jersey that they hand out to municipalities, and I believe that Councilman Olson is working with the Shade Tree Commission on the table and any tweaks that need to be made to it to model accurately for the borough of Fairhaven.
Okay, and then thank you. Speaking of trees, a couple of people have come up to me again as a member of the green team, and I have driven past the new BP gas station. I understand it's private business. Have we engaged them at all on their property and what it looks like, and you know, the fact that they moved the vent, right? The underground storage tank vent that used to be in the back over by a tree, they moved it now so that it's blowing right into the parking lot, you know, right towards the Dunkin' Donuts, right? For us all to breathe in the benzene. Is there any way to engage them to put in some trees, to take the, you know, fallen posts that is, I mean, I know it's private property, but I'm just wondering if there's a way to, whether it's the beautification committee or some way to engage them to plant some trees on their property and try to put a little bit of a buffer there between what's coming out of the gas station and the rest of us.
Stephanie, thank you for your comment. I'm gonna leave that portion of it with code enforcement. I don't want to discuss anything.
Well,
that
it's not code enforcement. I'm just talking about, can we ask them, I'm part of various groups and we plant trees all over town. We'd be happy to, plant a
if
tree.
you want to independently reach out to a business owner and ask them if they want a free tree, I don't necessarily have a problem with that,
But we couldn't do that with the borough support.
Borough of Fairhaven is in the business of choosing which businesses we want to donate trees to and which ones we don't.
Well, that planting strip between the parking lot and that gas station is for a planting buffer, which is consistent with our design standards as part of our code. When that property owner was given permission to remove them, it's because the trees were dying. They were declined permission to remove the large Zelkova, and they over pruned it. It's called lion's tail. And they should never have done that. I understand the arborist, the tree expert was censured in some way for what he did to the Zelkova. But it's anticipated that when that application appears to be for the board, whichever board, and I'm looking at Rich, but the planting strip, which is designed specifically for a landscape buffer, would be replanted. It's in our code, it's a section of our code. It's part of how the board reviews applications. It's part of the way our engineer and our zoning officer reviews applications. It will be addressed.
Could you look at the approved plan and see what they were supposed to replant as part of the approval?
Yeah, I'll pull it up tomorrow, research and get back.
Anyone else? Okay, with that, we're going to move towards executive session. The time is 8:56 p.m. Also, just a second time, thank you very much for hosting us tonight. It was very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a different thing that keeps me up.